Okay. It shows live here, so.
All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Darren Jensen coming to you live from our studios here at our global headquarters in Sandy, Utah. And today is a continuation of our doctor series. And today I'm really happy with who we have. It's Dr. Brett Brimhall. And for those of you that were down at our Elite Academy in Orlando, you know that Brett just set the stage on fire when he was down there, did an incredible job. And so I asked him to come back and really sit down with us and talk about this concept of biohacking. Because one of the things that Brett said on stage was about the difference between biohacking versus hijacking. And I think that's something that we'll get out into our lexicon and be out there for quite some time. So I wanted him to come back and explain some of that. But before I jump into his bio and read that for you and welcome him onto the program, let me just show you a couple of things that we just put up into the store. And this is the Life Vantage store that's online. And you can go in there and buy these now. We've got 2 trucker hats. These are $25 each. They're awesome. You've got this one here that's kind of a 3D logo because that Life Vantage logo is raised on there. And you've got this one that's really cool. I'd put them on and demonstrate, but I've got such a big round head. I don't look really good in hats, but I do like hats. So if you're looking for a trucker hat, be outside, be at events in, take a look for them on our website. And also what we're going to do, if in the comments section, if you wanted to put your name, your city and state, what we'll do is a drawing for several of those hats. And in the next few days, we'll get those, we'll do a drawing and we'll give some of them away and get them out to you. So remember, name, city and state, and country where applicable. All right, as I mentioned today, we have Elite Pro 7, Dr. Brett Brimhall with us. And let me read you a little bit about Brett, and I'll go through his bio. Also, I wanted to state on here at the very beginning that any statements we make today have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration, and our products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. So Brett's, Dr. Brimhall's background. Dr. Brimhall started his path in healthcare by working in his father's office at 14, cleaning and taking notes for him, studied massage, cranial sacral therapy, and mysofacial therapy prior to attending chiropractic school. He has a BS in anatomy, certified at acupuncture and nutritional counseling. He has been training doctors and other healthcare providers on formulations created by his father and himself since 1995, taught and trained healthcare providers in Canada, Europe, and United States, practice at and operate Brimhall Wellness Center in the Phoenix area of Arizona, focusing on using the most advanced natural therapies and techniques to help people achieve their full potential physically, mentally, and emotionally. He has a fascination with the brain and how it works. He has completed over 300 extra hours in functional neurology, studied neural feedback, hypnosis, and other biofeedback training. Been married to the love of his life, Holly, for almost 21 years, and has 4 children from ages 18 to 10 years old. His passion is his family and helping others achieve all that they can. With that, welcome, Dr. Brimhall. We're glad to have you on today.
Awesome. No, I'm excited. It'll be fun.
As I mentioned before, when we were down at the Elite Academy in Orlando, just what was it, a couple of weeks ago, You absolutely set the stage on fire. And I was really fascinated with what you were talking about on stage. And maybe to get us started, why don't you start off talking to us in general about biohacking and what biohacking means?
Absolutely. It's actually funny when I was asked to talk, I kind of got in my head, like, how do you explain biohacking? Because it's such a weird, like, I remember you first saying, I'm like, that's just a weird word, right? Biohacking. So I think of hacking is not a good thing. And then I started thinking about the concept, like, how do I make a concept like this that maybe seems complicated, simple? And that's when the whole idea of hijacking came into my mind. And so, but I really think that right now we have this specific genetic potential. And we always talk about, like in life, we want to be our best version of ourselves, whether that's in school or whether that's in business or just life in general, our relationships, we want to be the best version of ourselves. Well, biohacking is the word to describe like how we actually get in and almost program or take advantage of the best possible outcome for our gene potential, right? That's really what it is. So biohacking happens not only in the form of, how and which food affects our body, which we call nutrigenomics and supplements and herbs, but the idea that everything we put into our body physically and mentally affects the outcome, and that's biohacking. And so when I was thinking about this idea of hijacking, it really hit home to me, and I kind of shared this story from stage, is that if we look at purely just genetic potential, right? My mom lived to 60. So she passed away when she's 60, which genetically, potentially wise, doesn't make sense. She passed away from cancer, and her mom lived to 97. Her dad lived to 93. So just based upon how we understand genetics, and we should, it's all in our genes. Like, how did that happen? How do you take somebody that really had a genetic potential of much longer in life, really, 30 years younger than any of, her parents, pass away? Because her genes were hijacked by environment, hijacked by, the things that are around us that she didn't know. Based on genetic testing, which we have done with her and all on ourselves, we know why that took place. So biohacking, guys, is here to stay. We just need to understand how do we get into and optimize our gene potential, and that's biohacking. And if we do it the right way, which is what Life Vantage is focused on, we have the potential to not only live better now, but to live longer.
What you're saying there, Dr. Brimhall, I liked how you put it. I see it as a form of optimization, that we're out to optimize our biology. And I mentioned from the stage in Orlando that I think at heart, Life Vantage has always been biohackers, but there was really never a word for it. And when we started contemplating words to describe who we were, you had mentioned that the word hacking kind of had a negative connotation to you. It was interesting because the other day, to show how that term has evolved, the other day I was reading an article, I think it was out of Inc. magazine or maybe out of Forbes, and it started talking about ways to improve your health. Maybe it was prevention. I can't remember the magazine, but it went through a bunch of different ways of improving your health. And then it said, for other life hacks, join us on this website. And so really hacking is involving to really taking control of this complex system and optimizing it. And some of the negative feedback that we have received back on the term biohacking has come off of the Google website, because if you type in biohacking, it used to pull up kind of a negative definition. But for all of you out there, Life Vantage people, know that we've been working with Google and we got the definition changed. Nice. So we had to pull it from another kind of top tier source. So there was one from PBS that talks about using biology and other things to improve your life, and it's a new form of science. So now if you go in and Google biohacking, it's something quite positive that's there. So big improvement. So that we've gotten over that hurdle.
It's interesting, Darren, in having that conversation with you. Like, my whole practice life has been, how do I help somebody that comes in here and feels like there's no hope for them, and be able to help them become not only well, but the best they can be. And when we address and we work with that people, we look at them physically, we look at them nutritionally, we look at them even emotionally, to help them hack into their potential. Because sometimes they bought into there is no success. Well, even with genetics, we always hear, well, my mom had it, my aunt had it, so I'm going to have it. Well, if that's true, okay, that we have a genetic potential, are we living up to it? And what I love is the fact that we're using this terminology to help people understand, yes, we can biohack into it. Because if you look at sports performance, they're doing the same thing. If you look at academic performance, they're doing the same thing. We're looking, every part of our world is designed to optimize ourselves. But in the health industry, no one's really looked into it. Now we can. And what I love is Life Vantage is taking that at the forefront, is say, how do we actually hack into our biology to become the best for ourselves, not only therapeutically, but preventively. And that's what I love about that Washington State study, is where it's both preventative and therapeutic. And if we have the potential of doing that, like, how do we do that? And that's what this is all about. Because it's already right now, every person on the planet is being hacked, hijacked, right? Both on by what they believe. I saw two people last week on the same day, and both of them had bought into the philosophy they couldn't get better because a physician had told them that they couldn't, because of what they thought was going on, because of the belief system they had based on what they were doing. Well, when in a moment where we showed them the differences in how the body can perform, they both had hope again. And I know if we do what we're going to do, they're going to have their genes turned back on in ways that they have been, to heal in ways that they haven't. And that's the essence of biohacking and letting go of the hijacking that doesn't help you.
Yeah, and I like how you were just describing how really we're looking at biohacking many areas of life, not only our health and our body, but the way that I look at it too, we're trying to, in a way, biohack or optimize or gain control of a complex system, which is our own economics, our own financial independence, as well as our health, both mental, physical, and our well-being. And that's why we were looking even for a term that would encompass all of that. And that's where we came up with life activated. Yeah. So we're using biohacking and our economic engine to combine those together and to create life activated for our people. So,
yeah. I think from the stage, we even kind of mentioned that a little bit, is that Life Vantage with the products were biohacking.
Yeah.
Right. The business of it allowed us to financially biohack with the product of becoming a different person through Life Vantage, of like the personal growth, is enhance biohacking what we believe we can become. And it all fits the same paradigm.
I like it. Okay, so Dr. Brimhall, you've mentioned several times about this biohacking versus hijacking concept. Can you kind of describe that in broader, in more detail to us so that we understand it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to kind of talk in the terms of body. Whoa. Sorry, I lost you guys. My computer dropped. I just biohacked my computer the wrong way. Yeah. I hijacked it. So when I think about just from our body standpoint, everything we put into our body is information. So we all have heard this growing up, like, careful who you hang out with, right? Because if whoever you hang out with, and they say this, if you even look at your income potential or even the friends you have, whatever you hang out with is what you become, right? So right now, whatever you ate just a minute ago, or whatever you just listened to a minute ago, is giving your cells information to express either health or disease or disease. We say the body is healing when it's in a state of ease. When it's not healing, it's a state of disease. So there are things that we can absolutely do to optimize our system. And there's things we can absolutely do to hijack our systems. And so if people think of everything that they do, from what they eat to what they think is information to your cells to perform, then that's going to help them make different decisions, right? So looking at what from the body perspective, you're and we all know this, because grandma taught us, like, eat your vegetables, right? She always said, get good sleep before you take a test. What are you supposed to do? Have a good breakfast, have a good, and get some good rest, right? So you can perform, right? We all know that, because if we don't do those things, then our body doesn't perform at its best. All right. So that's in essence hijacking and biohacking. And right now, so there's some of that we control by what we eat, when we sleep, but there's a lot of things in our environment today that are absolutely hijacking us and we don't know it. Right? As simple as areas we grow up in. There's this whole process down here in Arizona called downwinders, where it's looking at specific diseases people have developed in much younger years because of exposure they had to radiation when they were teenagers. And so when they get in their 50s and 60s, they develop cancers by a 300% increase or more, which has affected their longevity. My mom is one of those. Right? So environmental exposure that they were unaware of was hijacking or damaging their genes that change their genetic potential. Right. So there's environmental influences that do that every single day and that we're unaware of. And there's debate on some of the things that deal with electromagnetics and other toxicities in our environment we don't know about. Some we put into our body because we, by choice, what we eat or drink. And there's some we don't even know of because of what we breathe in. And we are a worldwide, connected environment. So if somebody's using poisons in other parts of the planet, that can affect us here, because it affects everyone. We learned that with the nuclear thing that happened in Japan. Like, it affects the whole, system, right? So that's hijacking. It's happening whether we want it to or not. So are you doing what you can to biohack your potential by giving your body what it needs to perform its functions at its best? And that's what Vantage created. The products that they're making are not designed to be a supplement. They're designed to understand systems inside our body and develop that way synergistically to activate specific systems. And it's no different than a key, right? If you have the right key to the car works. All right. If you have the wrong key to the right car, it doesn't work. And if you have the right car and the right key and you have no gasoline, you're still in trouble. So when you look at the systems of what they created with the products, looking at Nerf 1, Nerf 2, the ProBio, the Axial, what they're doing, they're not asking, how do I make a better product? They're asking, what are the key switches that I have access to? And if I can make something to have access to that key, I can now turn on the systems that are basically put there in place by God, in my opinion, and then we can activate them, perform at our peak. And if that's my kid, right, or myself, or that's somebody that's in front of me that's just trying to get well so they can actually be the mom they want to be or the dad they want to be, or just, function, well, then I want to use products that aren't just to maybe be better than somebody else. I want to be ones that I know activate this big key switches that will actually turn on their cells in ways they haven't. Because I've always laughed with kids. Kids are so tired when they have to do homework, right? But if you tell them, hey, let's go to Disneyland, all of a sudden they have crazy energy. So if we're activating pathways that aren't the ones that are going to give us the biggest benefit, then we're not going to get the same benefit. But with Vantage and what you guys have created and looked at is, okay, what are the pathways that have the biggest impact? Okay, the most upstream. And if we turn those on, it turns on all the other ones. And we know that from other studies that have done that the Nerf 2 and the Nerf 1 are big switches. So I don't know if that's exactly where you want me to go, but that's why I'm excited about what the company is doing as a whole, and that the products they're bringing to market are designed to do that, not just try to be better than somebody else's. They're just saying, look, we're staking our flag. We're dealing with biohacking. Our planet's been hijacked. Let's address the things we can address, And I always tell people, look, do what focus on what you can change, not what you can't change, right? So if we focus on these big switches, which are giant switches that Washington State's called, the biggest therapeutic and preventive breakthrough in history of medicine, and we have the ability to activate that switch, that's a big deal, right? And so if we can find those other pathways like that and address those, then we have huge impact. And it's really about communication.
All right. Well, I like what you're saying. Let me just remind everybody that's joining us now. Remember, guys, we're highlighting two of our hats that we have out on our shop area. And if you want to buy these are fairly new up there. You've got two trucker hats. They're $25 each. And also, if you want to put down your city, your state, your name, and country where applicable, and you can get into a drawing for the two hats. So awesome hats here. And I think for each of this week, I'll be highlighting some things from our store that you can win. So we'll be doing a drawing for those in a few days. All right, back to you, Dr. Brimhall. Let me. I like what you're talking about with the activation of these big switches or these giant switches that are out there, and the systems that and the keys that we're trying to empower people to have. Now, the way I look at it, and where people may still be trying to fit the pieces together, maybe you could talk a little bit about how we take nutrigenomics, which is a science, and use that to biohack, and how all the products, nutrigenomics and biohacking work together.
Yeah, that synergistic effect. Yeah, and I think that, just looking at, the Nerf 2, right? Mm-hmm. That Nerf 2, Protandim Nerf 2, we know that there's 5 things in it, all right? 5 specific herbs. So there's this science called nutrigenomics, which is understanding that different plants and herbs have effect on our genes and how they express. To me, it's no different. Like, you and I both know that we can make a better hamburger than McDonald's, but they have a system to make it a hamburger. It's the same system every time. Okay, so if you want a hamburger, you can go to McDonald's. Okay, but that hamburger is not going to taste the same as somebody else's. All right. So, and I hate to even compare the two, but what we have to understand that there are systems in your body, and if you can activate them the right way, you actually get maximum improvement. So there are different Nerf 2 activators out there. All right. So if you're talking about a key cellular switch, right, and it has the potential, when it works right, to reduce inflammation, to turn on your body's ability to control antioxidant production, has the potential to basically help repair cells. I want that thing activated the best it can be in a natural way. All right. So I can find those 5 herbs that are in Protandim anywhere. All right. And if you go into the store and you even look at just turmeric, how many different things of turmeric do you have? You can have 20 bottles of turmeric at Sprouts or GNC or wherever you go. Is that one going to be the same as the one in Protandim? You have no idea. Okay. But at the same time, then you have 5 others. So think of it like this. If I have a lock, right, that I've got to open that door and there's 5 numbers, how many different combinations can you have, right, to open that lock? And if that lock is where the magic happens and you turn the wrong number at the wrong time, you're still not getting in. So we don't have to guess if we're activating that switch, right? You don't have to guess at all. Right? And I've had people say, well, I can go buy that stuff. Well, I'm sure you can, but then you're guessing. And I actually was teaching for a company time and they wanted me to make one. But I'd like, well, number one, how do I make one and be sure it's doing what we know Protandem's already doing? Then there's already patents. So how do I get past that? And then I got to say, look, mine's better than yours, even though I have no research. It made no sense to me. All right. So the concept of synergy, we all understand. If you have 5 players on the basketball court, every team has 5 players. They don't all play the same. You have with the right people and the right combination, it's magical. Okay, so it's no different here.
Well, it looks like we're getting a little bit of technical difficulty here with Brett. Let's see if he gets unfrozen here very soon. Hopefully you can see me and it's not my computer that's doing it. I don't think that it is. But until he comes back online, let me just take this concept that he's talking about, where he was talking about basketball players, different players come with different speeds, you know. What I would say is this, that I kind of look at it as making a cake. I can have 5 ingredients. Are you there, Brett?
Yeah, I am back. I don't know where I went, but yeah, I left.
Let me just finish the thought that I was doing. You were frozen for a little while. So I was taking your idea of this basketball team and I look at it as baking a cake. Okay. I'm making a cake, and you were talking about getting these ingredients from all different places. You also have to have the right ratios, because if I make a cake and use different ratios than what the recipe calls for, if I put in a cup of baking powder into my cake, that's going to be a nasty tasting cake, right? And so that's where you just can't randomly go out and try to recreate what Protandim NRF2 or NRF1 are. You've got to have the right recipe and the ratios and the synergy in between it to get the desired effect. And I think that applies, like you're saying, to the basketball team too. You have the same number of people on it, but you get a different outcome because there's different people on it. So
yes. No, I 100% agree with you, because that's the synergistic blend. And I think also too is if the goal is to make a cake, right? Mm-hmm. Well, then you're going to have certain ingredients. So when most product supplements are made, the goal is not to how do I activate NRF2, right? But most people don't know that NRF2, that switch when you turn it on, has the potential of doing tons of healing properties. So, and it's intracellular. Like, that's such a big concept to me, because if you can activate NRF2 and you can affect it inside the cell, your cell heals on the inside. Where most supplements that are made, they're looking at different things and say, well, I might combine a few things, but they have no way of testing how much NRF2 is produced. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's a giant deal.
Let's talk a little bit about when you talk about biohacking and nutrigenomics. I mean, you're a doctor. And so you have a way of presenting it. And I mean, as a doctor, I mean, you're in a position of authority and know all the science behind it. How would you recommend that just lay people like myself and others, how would you recommend that we talk about kind of these more complex ideas of nutrigenomics and biohacking? What's an easy way to discuss it with my neighbor?
That's a great question. I think I like to kind of talk to the person, right? Like what is it that they do, and try to relate it back to something that they are familiar with. But I do keep it sometimes this simple. How many people know that exercise is good for them? Like, everybody knows, right? That it's good for you. And the longer you do it, the better it is for you. So what if you could take one thing a day that activates your body's ability to repair, 40% faster? Like, is that something you'd want to do? Or if you could heal 40% faster, would you want to do that? And sometimes I'll keep it that simple, but because a lot of times I'll ask them, like, who is exercise good for? Everybody. Like, who should eat good all the time? Everybody. So when I talk about with people, and I say, number one, this is something I'm going to take the rest of my life, because I know full well that no matter how clean I try to keep my world and diet, there's still stuff I'm exposed to that I can't control. And so if there was a way for me to help my body out by doing one thing a day, or a couple of things a day, or to use the stack and do multiple things a day, I'm now giving my body the absolute best chance to be able to stay healthy and perform at its peak. And so that's a lot of times this thing that I'll say, because really the concept of nutrigenomics and biohacking seem complex, but it's simple in the sense of, say, look, do you want to perform your best? If the answer is yes, is what if there's some simple ways to do that? And I know everybody wants to exercise, but very few people do. I say, look, all you have to do is put this in your body, and you're turning these switches on, and you don't have to think about anything else. Like, you do that part, then everything else you do on top, that's a bonus. So I don't know if that's helpful, but I want them to know, like, this is literally like exercise. If the more consistent you are, the more effective it's going to be. Because whether you want to have toxins affect you or not, they are every day.
And when you talk about it being simple, that's why we've begun to form everything into stacks.
Yeah.
For those of you that out there that think, well, why did we use the term stacks? If you take a look in the biohacking field, what people talk about, or even in weightlifting or in some of these sports things, people will say, well, what stack are you using? What's your stack? And they'll start, can you rate my stack? Because it's the system that they're using in order to drive or take control of that complex system and drive a specific outcome. And so we felt that as we as we delve into this area of biohacking, it's important that we start adopting the nomenclature that's being used within this community. And that's why you see stacks. And I think an easy way of talking to people and of telling them where to start is to start out with one of our stacks. For instance, the Vitality stack that we just launched. That really has Nerf 1, Nerf 2, it has ProBio, and it's got our new Omega Plus. So if you're going to recommend something, I would recommend that. So Vitality stack, it's available now. And
it's funny, Darren, you bring that up, the stack. When I think of stacks, I played sports most of my life, and I always think about stacking your team to win.
Yeah.
Like, I always want to stack my team to win. So I want to play with the guys that know how to play, and I want to, get the best out of it. And when I'm seeing patients, they're complex. You've got all these different things going on. And when I think about the stack, the Nerf 1, Nerf 2, the ProBio, and the Omega Plus, it makes it so easy because you're addressing the major systems. It takes the complexity out of getting well. Like that, it's the Vitality stack is a beautiful system, simple, very inexpensive. When you're talking about you're addressing probably 95% of the reason why people don't get well and don't stay well with those four. And you combine the Axial and you're addressing probably 99.
So you've got, I like at it when you're saying kind of you stack your team. I look at it too, another common expression would be to stack the deck in your favor. Correct. And that's really what we're doing. We're stacking the deck in your favor with these stacks. And, you talked about Axio. That's a whole other category we could get into of nootropics, and which is a form of nutrigenomics and biohacking, which is incredible. So definitely those are our core products. Well, just one last question that we have, because it looks like our time's about up. Apart from the products, apart from LifeVantage, you're looking at a lot of science coming out. And, as I read your background, you've went out and you're really, like you're saying, you're fascinated by how the brain works. You're completing extra training. Half the stuff I read off, studied massage, craniosacral therapy, myofascial therapy, acupuncture, nutritional counseling, 300 extra hours in functional neurology and neural feedback. I mean, you're into everything. Where do you see science going from longevity? I mean, you hear talking about 150. You hear some researchers and geneticists saying, well, really 1,000 could be possible out there over time. I mean, what are you seeing coming down the pipeline?
That's a great question. I look at it two ways, Aaron. And what I mean by that is, like, there are people, if you tell them, hey, I want to live an extra, I want to live to 150, a lot of people don't. And what I mean by that, because the life they're living right now is not one they enjoy. Right? So looking at it from the science perspective, the reason why I've studied so much stuff is I kind of grew up with a dad that we were just, if you couldn't help somebody, you want to figure out why. And just kept driving to learn more and learn more and learn more. And we realized that this body we have and spirit is a very complex system that all have to work together synergistically to have somebody fully express life. At the core part of that is having a purpose, right? If people have a purpose, they want to live a long time. If they have a reason to live, their body wants to function. And so science is always looking at how do we live longer. And to me, I do both. I want to live longer, but I want to live better. And I want to be alive. Because I've watched a lot of people emotionally where they just don't want to live anymore because they're so hurt or they've lost something, right? Or they just don't feel good. Right. So where science can take us, and what I love about LifeVantage, if you combine those things of the products, the opportunity, and the personal growth, you find purpose, right? Which creates a journey to personal growth, which you use the products to help you get there and stay there. Right. So science is looking at how do we live longer, but right now they're trying to figure out how do we live better? Because yes, some people are living longer, but they're living in rest homes and stuff where they don't want. So to me, LifeVantage is creating a way where we can live better, where we can potentially live longer, but at the same time, we have a purpose in giving back. That's why I love the LifeVantage legacy part of LifeVantage is giving back. Because you combine those things, then you have purpose. There's so much purpose involved in that, and that's really, for the body to get well, it has to have a reason to be well. When I first meet with somebody, I'm thinking, what are your goals? What do you want? And I've got to somehow tie their ability to make some changes to something that really is motivating enough to make those changes. Because then they'll take their supplement, then they'll change their exercises, they'll do those things because they want to be here. And so I don't know if that's where you want to go, but really science is going to take us to how do we live longer. But I want to live longer and better to do those things that I'm put on this earth. So why have I studied a lot of stuff? Because I love to learn, but it's because I love people, right? And so I think if we have purpose and we use these products and we have an opportunity and you tie it all together, you have a lot of happy people running around. If you don't, then that's where you struggle.
I think you just described a life activated.
Correct. And that's what it is. And I love that term.
Because not only is it the health and the technology side, but combining the financial independence, but also it's the third part, kind of like a stool that you sit on. The third leg is meaning and purpose and giving back. And if we can achieve a life activated is a life worth living.
Yep.
And that's where we want everyone to get to. Because I agree, there's quantity, but there's also got to be that balance of quality along with it. So great advice that you're giving. Hey, thank you, Dr. Brimhall, for joining us today. I know that you jumped in between patients to join us, and we're really appreciative for all that you do. And for some reason, my thing started popping up a bunch of stuff on it. I still hope that we're broadcasting, but thank you for joining us. And it's been a pleasure to have you on with us today. And just a reminder to everyone, again, we've got these hats in the store, $25 for trucker hats. Awesome to wear around to events, wear it around all the time. I'm in Costco, I'm in the store, and I'm constantly being stalked by LifeVantage people. You'll find them everywhere, but I always, no matter where I'm at, I have some type of logo gear on. I've got a nice LifeVantage shirt here. I'm sure it's in the store. And wear your gear, and especially those that are saying biohacking, I get tons of questions about them. So anyway, everyone, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Brimhall, for joining us today and sharing biohacking with us. So we'll catch you later, and everyone, we'll see you later tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we have, I don't have it down here, but I believe that we have our leadership one tomorrow, and I'm sure it's going to be exciting. So talk to you then.
I guess.